Sakto, pero mahigpit.
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
Dead Dad, a horror podcast.
Brought to you by Big Baby Studios.
Ooh, welcome to our podcast. Hello, listeners, and welcome to our podcast. We're going to be talking about scary things today. And my name is Aaron. I love watching horror movies for the thrill. And I'm joined by my co-hosts. First, we have our resident horror fanatic who has probably seen every horror film ever. We have Chris. And of course, we have our other co-host who probably has seen nothing because he's a scaredy cat. In fact, by the end of this episode, he might think that there's someone behind him with just a little prodding. Ganyan, that's how scared he is. That is Miguel. We also have our producer here, our producer, Maui. Hello. And that's the crew. And today, of course, we're going to have a special guest. Every week, we have a special guest. Today, we have an acclaimed horror writer who wrote Waking the Dead and Other Stories, and Ilawod, directed by Dan Villegas. Everybody, give it up for Yvette Tan. Yeah!
Hi, guys.
Welcome.
Thanks for having me.
We know that you're an expert of horror, but before we ask you any of those questions, I'd like to know how you got into horror in the first place.
That's a very, very interesting question because I am actually like Miguel.
Oh.
I am a scaredy cat. I don't like these things.
That makes no sense. Whatsoever.
I've read your stuff, Yvette. I don't know how that works. Yeah.
It just so happens that I like writing the things that I write, and it actually took somebody, like I'd write these things and then people would come up to like my mom and be like, "What's with your daughter? Why does she write these scary things? It gives me nightmares."
What's with
And it finally took a friend. A friend had to sit me down and say, "You know what? You write horror." but promise, like I've always had an interest in supernatural stories and folklore, and I guess that's where it comes from. But I really, really don't like being scared.
That's really interesting because you wrote a horror film and short stories. Do these come from your imagination, or is it like an experience?
They come from my imagination. But recently, I don't know if you believe in these things. I didn't really used to think it would happen to me, but I've become weirdly sensitive. It's not fun.
Oh no. Like third eye?
Is this something recent or?
Yeah, 2016, 2015. No, 2018, like super recent.
What do you mean? Can you tell us about that experience? Because
okay,
you never thought it would happen to you. Now I want to know what it is.
Okay.
Now, na?
Yes.
Yeah.
So you can just edit it out if you want.
No, it's just that Miguel's going to get scared. That's why.
Keeping it in.
So I went to New Orleans like a couple of years ago. No, 4 years ago. So this happened 4 years ago. Before this, nothing. So I go to New Orleans and then I go on the plantation tour. I go with a friend. She leaves me by myself. I go on a plantation tour. By this time, I was intuitive but not sensitive because I was reading tarot, doing whatever. And then, so tour, yay! Like, we go to Oak Alley where they filmed Interview the Vampire. Really, it's a big chunk of U.S. history, especially in the South.
Right.
On the bus back to the hotel, I hear a voice in my head in Tagalog saying, and I speak to myself in English in my head. So this voice in Tagalog says, "Magpagpag ka." And here's me going, "What? Ba't ako magpapagpag? Hindi naman ako galing cemetery." I didn't come from a cemetery, completely forgetting that the plantation, we went to 2 plantations. Like there are people buried on plantations. And a lot of, there's a lot of emotion, a lot of death, a lot of grief because slaves.
Right.
So I go back to the hotel and then I try to sleep that night. And I can't because every time I turn off the light, I hear like really, really loud noises. So I have to sleep with the light on. So next day, I get a text from the Philippines. This is my psychic friend. Apparently, I have a lot of psychic friends. Like they pop out of the woodwork. He's like, "Oh, kumusta na dyan?" I'm like, "Hey, what's up?" He's like, "Oh, sino kasama mo?" I'm like, I'm alone in the hotel room. What's going on? He determines that 2 spirits had followed me. One white dude, one black dude. Gives me their names. And I'm like, why did...
What are their names?
I'm not going to tell you because apparently if I tell you, it gives them power.
Person A, person B.
Actually, I'm surprised you're telling us about it because apparently that attracts them also. But...
Then.
Nasa
Nasa America sila.
This story will explain why they're in America. Okay. So, why they didn't follow. So, I'm like, okay, can you tell them what I have to do so they stay in New Orleans? Because I don't want them following me. And he said, this is what you do. One of them wants oysters. Just buy oysters and put it as close to the ground as possible. So I'm like, okay, fine. I was leaving that day.
I hate you, Maui.
It's giving ambience.
So,
keep going.
Maui,
okay.
What the
So
hell?
I was leaving that day. So I had to cancel my plans. I was going to eat at Dookie Chase, this historical restaurant in New Orleans. Because aside from liking all these things, I also like to eat. So that was part of the reason for me going there. So okay, cancel na yung plan ko. I had to go look for the nearest seafood restaurant na may oysters. So I ordered the oysters and I put them near the window and then I'm eating everything by myself. And I noticed that the waiter doesn't pay attention to the oyster near the window. He's very polite. He'll clear everything. He'll ask me if I'm all right. Does not ask about the oyster. Does not touch it. Up until I leave the restaurant, it's still there. Inayos na lahat, that oyster is still near the window. So I asked my friend, okay, so this guarantees me safe passage. Do you know why they followed me? And he goes, it's because he likes exotic women. And I'm like... So I learned two things. Number 1, mahal pala mang friend zone kasi mahal yung oysters na yun.
Right.
They weren't in my budget and they were expensive. And pangalawa, pamatay pala yung beauty ko. Literally pampatay yung beauty ko.
Ganda.
So,
very nice.
I love it.
I came back and I'm now mildly sensitive. And it's not fun.
I'm sure.
Which is why I kind of stopped writing for a while just to recalibrate, and now I'm back.
Would you write about that experience if you could, or no?
Sure, it's an anecdote. I've told it to a lot of people because it's a fun story when you're not there anymore.
Cool.
Are you on some sort of ghost Tinder or something?
I no. I'm very happily attached, excuse me. Go to somebody who does not see these things. I'm so happy.
Tinder.
Yeah. Wow.
Yes.
Cool. Okay, can you tell us why you chose Trollhunter?
Okay, it's a really fun movie.
It is.
First of all, and what I wanted to show that because a lot of people think when they think horror, they think it has to be scary, but horror doesn't really have to be scary. It's really more the emotion that you feel, not necessarily the jump scare, which is what everyone associates with horror. So you can have horror comedy, or here the internet says it's more dark fantasy, but it still has horrific elements.
How would you define the horror genre for you? Your perspective on the horror genre,
things that have to do with parts of humanity or parts of the world that we don't want to address or that we've forgotten.
Would you classify...
I like that. I
like
that's
that. Really nice. That's why, would you classify a horror movie with a human as the antagonist as a horror film? Or
yes. Yeah, of course. I would, because that's still... Especially if they're really hot, like American Psycho. Because it's something we don't want to accept, that hot people can be evil.
That's true.
Galing yun, ah.
That's really funny because our other guest, earlier guest, Quark, he only considers anything horror if it's supernatural and nothing else.
Oh, okay.
So
iba yung pag-categorize niya, no? Interesting.
Very interesting. I love it.
Because for Yvette, it's more inclusive.
While we're on the topic, while we introduced Trollhunter, Miguel, how about can you give a really, really quick summary of what the movie is about? So before we dive into it.
So I've seen, full disclosure, I've seen 2/3 of it. So
wasn't scary, Miguel.
Yeah, it wasn't. No. It wasn't. It was just that I ran out of time. I was supposed anyway. So Trollhunter is about a bunch of college kids who, I think for their thesis or for their final project, wanted to do a documentary on
bears.
On bear hunting, because it was hunting season, and apparently there's politics behind, like who can shoot, or like, permits and hunt and licensing. So that's a whole social issue. So they kind of stumble upon an interesting character who, this is the premise, I guess, who later is revealed as a troll hunter, Norway's only troll hunter. So they kind of jump on his mission, and then they kind of get into a bunch of mishaps along the way. So the format is found footage, like in the form of Blair Witch Project. And so it's I guess, is it a mockumentary style way of like... Yeah. And so, like any good movie, it mixes suspense, a bit of horror, a bit of the fantastic, and also a bit of comedy. So it's pretty cool.
A bit of reality, which you would have gotten to if you had finished.
I'm still gonna finish it, and then we can add something to this podcast on my end. Like, by the way,
he'll record separately on his phone. Just send it to us. And also,
Maui, tell them I got to the end.
Okay, so Trollhunter is a Norwegian film. It was released in 2010, and it was directed by Andre Ovredal. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that properly, but yeah, that's Trollhunter.
Yeah. And with little known actors, they're not famous people.
Actually, supposedly a few of the big names for them are comedians, which is a great way to open this discussion because again, like Yvette said, a lot of people would not characterize Trollhunter as horror. Most people would probably say fantasy or like fantasy comedy or something. But it's a blend of a lot of different genres, and I think. That's one of the things why it's so interesting to watch. The way I watch it is, I think I told you guys this earlier. No, the second I realized that it was really like tongue in cheek and they were playing it almost for laughs, then I realized, okay, so this is kind of a comedy, and then it really added to my appreciation of the film because I came into it thinking it was a straight up horror film. It's not campy. It's really supposed to be kind of in the vein of like Best in Show or like Spinal Tap. Not as funny, of course, but the mockumentary with humor elements.
If you would notice, if you go, I looked at the old trailers when it first came out 10 years ago. If you would look at the trailers, the marketing materials, it wasn't being sold as a comedy or a commentary. It was being sold as horror. So yun nga eh. So you come into the theater not knowing what it is about. I remember being very surprised that it wasn't what was on the tin. Mm-hmm. But I agree. It added to the experience.
What I liked about it is that they use actual folklore. And it's also what I like about Midsommar. They use actual folklore.
Yeah.
So, and they didn't even change the way the trolls look. Like if you had put clothes on them, they'd look the same. They'd be cute.
Cute.
That's a really good, funny thing to say, Yvette, no? Because like for me, like I hated the designs of the trolls. like the massive noses. Like it was like so ugly. Like at the start, I was like, I wish it was scarier. Like I wish these trolls were really scary. But they're just designed like that because like that's how Norwegian trolls are supposed to look like. They've got bulbous noses, They've
got 3 heads. And I love how there's a scientific explanation for why these things happen.
Yeah.
I love that scene when the doctor was talking about the scientific explanations. And then they started trying to incorporate it into parang natural disasters. Oh, it's a tornado?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love that. So it makes you think, so is it real? Or I don't know.
Yeah. And it makes you think about that in every other context. Like, so, manananggal ba talaga yun? Or,
right.
Mm-hmm.
Ako naman, I super love the fact that the Trollhunter, the main character, is like a disgruntled civil servant. Like, you know what I mean? Like, he's letting these kids come on this mission because I want you to tell them how bad a job I have. You know what I mean? No benefits. No benefits, no overtime. Sobrang sama ang loob niya. So it was really funny.
He's world weary, and then like it's hilarious when he has to fill out the form after killing a troll.
Bureaucratic din pala.
Yeah.
How did it die? Explode.
Yeah. That's a really that's actually also one of the things for me that made it work, Yvette, was because it was really deeply rooted in folklore. It wasn't just a one-off. You know what I mean? Like, I love the fact that I don't know anything about the culture of Norway, but I'm guessing that a lot of it is really, you know, it's like us talking about Aswangs. It's not a generic horror film for them. You know what I mean? It's personal, and I really I love that about it. Again, like you mentioned, Midsummer. No, it adds to it when there's so much culture behind it, because it shows that there's, you know, a lot of passion behind the project, and it's not just like a, you know, for scares kind of thing.
Yeah. Wait, can I talk about Midsummer a bit?
Please.
Like
Absolutely. Yeah. You brought it up.
It's so ingrained in their folklore that the spells they use are actual spells. Like they're actual folkloric spells. You know that thing where she puts her blood in his food? That's an actual spell.
Drink?
Yeah. Like, so that's how deep that went. So it's kind of like that. That's what I felt about Trollhunter as well. Like they really just incorporated it into the modern world.
Since we're talking about the comedic aspect of the movie, you know, what really cracks me up is si Finn, you know, that really incompetent guy who tries to cover up all the troll attacks, and like with the bare feet.
Baliktad pa.
Baliktad pala. It's so funny. It's so incompetent. Yeah. It's a great. Apparently, he's another big comedian in Norway.
So, I guess he literally represents the government. Like, no, I mean in Finland.
Like really inept.
Norway, image inept. And parang bad at their job.
Yeah.
Mediocre.
I did look up whether the footage at the end was real, and it was.
Holy shit.
On Reddit,
right?
they said that it was real footage. Yeah. Miguel doesn't know
said the word
what
troll.
we're talking about. But that ending.
So he did say the word troll.
He did. Some Norwegians were like, we know that. And they asked permission from the Prime Minister, if they could use it. And he was like,
that's amazing.
Good. Yeah.
So good.
I did wonder how they got that. I read a bit on that. And apparently he was referring to electrical lines in an area called the Troll Field, which is why he said troll.
That's how they came about with the movie. That's how they came up with the concept of the movie. They saw that clip and they found it funny. So they asked the Prime Minister, can we use this? And then that's how they came up with it.
Oh, that's incredible. I had no idea.
I didn't know that.
That's so cool.
Apparently, like in that region of, is it Scandinavia?
Yeah.
That whole area. Sorry, I just saw Eurovision also there. Like even the elves. Like apparently even adults and like a big chunk of the population have no problem coexisting their beliefs with this sort of supernatural thing. Mm-hmm. Like even the Icelanders believe in elves.
It's so normal.
It's part of their world. It's so normal. Yeah.
I mean, technically, ganyan din tayo with Aswan.
Yeah, sabagay. Nope.
Yvette would know. I mean, she writes about this shit all the time.
I love it.
Actually, in Europe, they kind of would prefer not to believe, but it's only in Iceland that they're really like, let's not move this rock.
Yeah.
But everywhere else,
they're more secular. Yeah. But the Icelanders are parang, nope, build the highway around the rock.
Yes. Mess with the elves, man.
The elves went too far.
I watched Eurovision also.
Yeah, I love it.
I love it. And I found out that Iceland subsidized $1 million pala. That's why.
To make the movie?
Really?
Oh, wow.
Was it like a tourism campaign?
Probably, because now I want to go to Husavik.
And here, Yaya Ding Dong.
There's a 10-hour version on YouTube.
I heard.
I saw that.
Of course there is.
Oh my goodness.
Of course there is.
Yvette, can you tell us a bit about...
There's a 10-hour version of anything.
All right, that's a question.
No, I was going to ask, can you tell us about your experience when you first saw the film? Where did you see it? Who did you see it with?
I saw it on my computer.
Oh, really?
Oh.
I think I heard about it through Chris. I told you, the only reason I started watching horror films is because I write horror, so I might as well watch it. Because I get a lot of my inspiration from songs and from movies, except I never watched horror movies. So everything that I've written has been very intuitive, I'm just really lucky that the beats are correct. So my watching horror films was more educating me on what I was writing. That's so it's
That's hilarious. That's like for everyone else, it's the reverse. But for you, it's
like I will sometimes look at the Wikipedia entry first before watching a film, just so I don't get scared. I'm one of those people.
Yeah.
I did that with Human Centipede just because I was like, I don't think this is worth watching. So let me just read about it first. I ended up watching it anyway.
I haven't seen that.
It's bad.
I don't like body horror.
Yeah.
Oh god, I didn't see it.
I mean, bad, ugh. But iconic, I would say.
Yeah,
it's iconic, right, Chris?
I haven't.
It's
I haven't
definitely.
seen it.
So it's okay. Unless someone requests for it, it's okay.
Yeah.
You can skip. It's skippable.
Yeah. You can. Yeah, not my thing at all. So back to Trollhunter, Yvette. There's so many references of folklore that actually aren't just purely Norwegian, I guess, but stuff that we know. Like, for example, that the goats on the bridge. I mean, that's ripped straight from Billy Goat Gruff.
Yeah.
Right.
Which
the goats.
Which I assume
and
is
the troll
from
under the bridge.
Which I assume is from Norway.
Definitely.
Yeah.
It's from Norway for sure, but it's in popular culture too, you know?
Yes.
So, because for me, like, I know nothing about trolls, but I do know Billy Goat Gruff, and I know that trolls
under
like
bridges.
are attracted to Christians and live under
Are
bridges.
they really
and stuff.
gigantic? Are they supposed to be that big?
Well, Miguel, if you've seen it, you find out that there are different kinds of trolls.
I know. Yeah, there's like from the mountain trolls and then the woodland trolls.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got the 2/3 guy.
But did you enjoy the 2/3?
Yeah, like I want to see. The reason why I didn't see the 1/3 guy, it's not because I gave it up. It's because like I got overtaken by events and I was supposed to get back to it before our recording, and I just didn't.
Yeah.
I didn't get it because it's my birthday today. Is what I'm saying.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
By the way, guys,
I'm throwing in that like birthday pass.
Birthday card.
I got it. Yeah. Birthday pass.
But I will finish the movie tonight or tomorrow, and then I'll weigh in.
Yeah, you should.
I'll weigh in.
Then you'll get postscript weigh in.
I actually don't know much about trolls na. None of the fairy tales that I know really have trolls. It's just that Billy Goat's Gruff one.
It's great because you go in, even if you know nothing about trolls, you go out and you're like, oh, okay, I know that they can smell the blood of Christian men. I know that they hide under bridges.
That part was hilarious, by the way. When the cameraman
that part was
started praying.
Was panicking. Yeah.
And then when he came,
it's so funny because they foreshadowed it earlier.
Yeah.
Like the first troll attack,
smelled them.
the troll hunter Hans was like, "Who's a Christian here?" And then everyone's like, "No, not me." And the cameraman doesn't say anything. and then like, okay. So the payoff was really good.
Sorry,
when they were stuck in the cave.
I think the last scene I saw was when they got a replacement camera person. And she was Muslim.
Yeah.
And you're like, all right, this should work. So I don't know what
and Hans was like, I don't know. Let's try it.
The world-weary public servant that he is. He's like,
I'll try anything, whatever. They don't pay me enough to worry. I also like the part where, like the scene where they catch the second troll, and he comes out in the super dorky costume.
Oh, his like
the
armor.
whole sequence was really funny. And then he goes, I even screen capped that. He goes, hold on, let me quote the line that I love. Keep your distance. I'm about to toss out some Christian man's blood. It's just like, he says it so casually. I have to do my job. Like, it's so good.
So good. Like, it's weird that this is characterized as a horror film because there are not a lot of horror elements, but there are some scary parts. Like, the cave sequence was pretty good. It was tense. You know, and it's horrific also because, I mean, you know, there are when it's played out like a comedy, but then when people die, you're like, oh shit, you know, there are some horrific
the death
elements.
of the camera was pretty. Cameraman was pretty. Right?
It was. It was. I did not expect that. It changed the tone of the film. But that's what's cool for me about horror because again, like the whole point of this podcast is to kind of demystify the genre because like a lot of people just think horror is straight up supernatural or straight up jump scare. But I mean, like you can do a lot with the genre. And then there are a lot of films that are like Trollhunter that kind of jump between comedy, fantasy, horror, and then it's a lot of fun.
The Taiki vampire movie and Yeah, what we do in shadows. Yeah,
Exactly. Yeah, like what we do in the shadows would be technically a comedy horror.
On the comedy side, yeah.
And I would put that
there's
in.
a Thai movie.
Yeah.
What is it?
That's comedy horror. It's like it's straight up supernatural, but it's so funny and scary at the same time.
Yeah, and I love it about the genre that it's that malleable. It's really not straight up jump scare, really. There's so much you can do with it in the sense of like treating it like a mockumentary. There are so many horror films that are mockumentaries. I mean, Blair Witch is obviously the most famous of everything, but there's a lot. There's like As Above, So Below. It's a film set in the catacombs of Paris. It's a mockumentary. There's
I saw
Exorcism of Emily Rose. I think
wasn't that based on a real?
Oh my
story?
God, you saw that?
Yeah,
Yes.
Germany. Yeah, Germany.
Yeah.
Pero,
Yeah.
I remember when I saw that.
So
we ended
the way-
the movie by 3 a.m. and we were all just like, "You guys want to chill first? Chill."
or no, stigmata.
Yeah,
Sorry, go on.
exactly. Because mockumentaries, because they're supposed to add realism, So it works so well with the genre because when you think that this horrific stuff is real, it adds to your appreciation for which is totally different from your experience with Trollhunter, which is a comedy, and you're watching it and you're like, this is so fucking ridiculous. Like, you know what I mean? But the treatment was a mockumentary. It's great. I really enjoyed the film for so many reasons.
Yeah, same.
Small
I'm very
note.
surprised that you picked this, actually.
The version I saw, I had to get subs for it, obviously. For the first 10 minutes, ayaw mag-sync.
Yeah.
So it added a layer of comedy. Like, well, what's going on here? Like,
Same.
Until I figured it out. Oh, it's not in sync. And then I got it. And then, it makes sense now. Like, but...
So tell us, Yvette, like, what else was good about this movie? What were like individual things? Did you like the acting, the direction, the mood? What about it?
Well, it's my favorite horror genre, which is, horror comedy aside, it's folk horror. So that's where you get The Wicker Man is a good example of folk horror.
Yeah.
So Midsommar is also folk horror. So basically, it's city folk going into the country, being all, we know what's going to happen. You don't know anything, and then
very nice. Yeah.
Is there a Filipino version of that sort of?
Itim. Good example.
From the city, then they go to
to the province and then discover like the.
A lot of the Shake, Rattle, and Rolls were like that.
Yeah.
The one where Manilyn Reyes visits Ana Roses in the province, and then it turns out the whole village is aswang.
Yeah.
So when we do it here, we usually do it in a comedic way. Usually, we haven't explored it in a really scary way, except for maybe again.
Yeah.
Wasn't that the plot to an aswang film starring Lovipo, Marcabayas, an aswang or a wolf? Werewolf. Parang ganun, people in the city, and then they go to the town where everyone's a werewolf, apparently.
Yeah,
or
it's
something.
a very big horror trope.
The village. Parang the village is in on it.
Yeah.
Except this one, they use actual. Except this one, it's rooted in folklore.
Yeah.
So it's always it doesn't have to be supernatural. It's always, why are you doing these weird things? Yun pala, they're going to be sacrificed already. It's always rooted in what people do. That's the difference. It doesn't have to be supernatural. Except in this case, it was.
Parang the lottery, like the short story.
Yes, exactly.
The lottery.
Exactly, Parang. It's exactly the lottery. Except there was no city person. The city person in the lottery would have been the reader.
Oh shit!
And there's a movie that was like the outsider, like married into a family that lives in a town that practices the lottery. Siya yung audience avatar. Yeah, but I think it's like a TV movie, so it wasn't widely released.
I see.
The lottery.
Sorry, masyado bang academic? Academic ako.
No.
This is a
super interesting
discussion. You lead it. This is your choice. We'd love to hear what you think about it.
Yeah, like I discuss it in a very academic sense because it's how I break things down.
Yeah.
So,
does that method make you appreciate horror better when you're not scared of it because you try to break things down into stuff that is palatable or like more easier to accept because you're breaking it down into parts? Is that how it works for you? Or?
Well, no. First of all, I would like to feel all the emotion. The breaking it down comes afterward. And it makes it so I can dissect it and, even more realize why it was such a great piece of work.
I get it.
I actually have a friend who shall remain unnamed, but he works in the production business, and then he likes horror, but he's a big scaredy cat. So whenever he watches it and he gets scared, he just thinks of how they shot it. Since he's in the production business, so he's like, okay, so the camera was there, the lighting was probably frontal and backlit, and then he's like, oh, they got someone to stand by to splash blood or whatever. So he would break it down to parts. That way he would be like, okay, then I understand it. I'm not so terrified.
Who's that? Who's that?
Let's say his name is Mosey.
Got it. I know.
I actually do that sometimes.
While watching.
It makes sense.
Yeah.
I can't do it for horror because cinematography is not my strong suit, but I'll do it for like documentaries. Like, where's the cameraman? Well, how did they get the shot?
Yeah. Because for me, honestly, like having been a fan of horror for decades, it takes a lot to scare me. But the first Paranormal Activity movie really scared me.
Yeah.
And it was a mockumentary, basically.
Yeah.
So in line with this theme, So it really added this layer of realism, and it just scared me. It just scared me, and then because I'm not so great with supernatural horror when it's done properly. When it's done with CGI, then just I don't care about it much. But when it's done
Brotherhood of the
properly,
Wolf.
well, then that's a good movie, though.
Yeah, up until we see the
Le Pack de Loup.
Pack de Loup.
Yeah.
Sometimes when you see the monster, it just removes the fear.
Yeah.
That's why this one wasn't scary at all.
Yeah.
It's
Right? Yeah.
Oh.
And the
But
fact
clearest thing.
the design was so comical. The design of the trolls were so comical.
But when you couldn't see them, they were scary.
Super effective.
When it's all darkness.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Which actually they used as it was a tool. Like they'd switch to night vision and then they'll reveal it and then they'll switch out. Galing nga eh.
So this was a very low budget film, but my God, I mean, they did it to their advantage, like with the grainy cam, the shaky cam. The effects were really, really impressive for a low budget film, I thought.
I didn't know that was a low budget film.
Yeah, it's pretty low.
What's the range? How do you know it's a low budget film?
The budget, it says
19?
No, it says $3.5 million US dollars. It was 19 million. 19 million of whatever currency Norway is.
Oh.
Krona.
But the budget, so it's 3.5 US. So that's really, really small.
That's really low.
Yeah.
For horror.
So they use it to their advantage.
Yeah.
So like with the shaky cam, the grainy, the night vision and stuff. It was very good.
My favorite scene was the bridge where you don't see anything, then you see the hand reach up.
Oh, you see the hand grab.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's pitch dark, diba? Galing nga.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like when it's the dark scenes. Also the first time before you see the troll for the first time, but it's all dark and you just see things moving. Like, what's going on?
Yeah.
Of course, all of that goes
fun.
away when you see the actual troll because it looks so funny.
Yeah. It's again, this is really surprising that this was a film that you chose. I love this film a lot. But I would have thought you would have chosen like a small personal horror. So
Well,
I want to delve. Your
My
first
first choice was Young Gao. That was my first choice.
Richard Somes.
Directed by Richard Somes. That is my favorite Pinoy film, horror film.
Oh.
It's a fantastic film. Fantastic
I
film.
have not seen that yet.
this.
It's fantastic. It's an Aswang film, right?
It's an Aswang film.
Aswang,
It's a family drama.
Also,
More than a
fantastic.
horror film.
Oh.
Yeah.
so is this
But
one?
at the end, you're like swearing and wanting to throw things.
I was gonna say, is that one inside of us, the family? Like, is it that kind of the real Aswang is your family member? Just kidding, I don't know. All right, I'll watch out for this. Yvette, sorry, my fandom of you started when I read your book, Waking the Dead. It's not Walking the Dead, it's Waking the Dead, no? Since you delve a lot into folklore, like how much research, like did you go by what you knew or heard as a child, or did you find ways to go deeper and find out more about these stories?
Both. Like a lot of it for Waking the Dead was chismis that I heard as a child.
Okay.
So I grew up in the 80s.
Yeah.
Martial law just ended. But I'm a martial law baby, so I was born when it was still in effect. So like one of the stories in Waking the Dead, the bridge that has to do with San Juanico, that was an urban legend that you'd hear in the 80s, the early 80s, late 70s. And it was used to scare children to not leave the house. So it was just, I'd use things like that. My only research for that was I was working in a newsroom. I turned to the editor. I'm like, when was the San Juanico Bridge built? I'm like, oh, okay, that's it.
Oh, yeah. Galing nga.
So it's a lot of chismis. So yeah, that's where it comes
being
from.
a horror writer, Yvette, how do you watch horror films? Like, it has to be different from anyone else who does watch horror films. And you know what I mean? Your point of view is different. So like, how would that be different?
I watch it like a film student, actually. I throw away my writer's hat. So I took up film in college, and I watch it like a film student, which is you watch it more than once, you watch it till the end, all the credits, and the first time you watch it is you just watch it as is. The second time, if you're lucky, I don't usually have a lot of money, so I can only watch it once, but as much as possible, you watch it more than once, right? Like all of you are film buffs, so you all know this. So the second time is when you watch it so that you can dissect things after.
So I know that you're like horror for you is like horror movies is kind of secondary to your writing. But what's your favorite horror movie then that isn't Yanggao?
That isn't Yanggao? Oh wow, that's tough. The most recent one, I guess, would be Midsommar. Only because, like, if you'll notice, all the movies I mentioned aren't purely there to shock. They always have some. All the movies I've mentioned, they're not just there to scare you or shock you. All of them have some underlying other thing going on. So Yanggao isn't really just a horror movie; it's a family drama. Midsommar isn't just a horror movie; it's a really, really great breakup film.
Super.
Yeah, and all three of those films, also including Trollhunter, are the common line is really folklore. It's like what is the culture of whoever presented that story.
Yes,
that's really interesting. You've been very consistent in your answer.
Oh, I know. But I also like Get Out.
Yeah.
What I really, really want to do is, well, I'm gonna say it now. What I really, really want to do is comedy horror.
Oh.
I can get, which is hard because comedy is hard.
Yeah, it is super hard.
So and
name some great comedy horror films because it's difficult. It's difficult. It's really difficult.
It's very difficult because usually when it's easiest when you're spoofing something like Scream or Attack of the Killer Tomatoes. When you're spoofing something, it's easy for it to be horror comedy. But does Get Out count as horror comedy? It does, right?
There are definitely some comedic elements. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Yes, More Than Us. I think It Follows is fun.
That is interesting. I don't see any comedy in it, but I would love to hear what you see in it that's comedic.
Just the whole premise. If you have sex, something follows. And it felt like an 80s kids movies except with teenagers and sex. And it was like the Goonies in that vein. So it was like Stranger Things but with sex and with older people.
Nice.
So that's the thing I felt. Ready or Not is also fun.
Oh, incredible. That's something I should force Miguel to watch.
Why?
It's not. I haven't seen it. It's not scary.
Movie. Aaron, you would
really
love it. It's not
Ready or Not.
Yeah, it's a thriller horror.
Oh, it's like
actually, but it's also comedy. It's definitely comedy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ready or Not.
It's like the girl version of Get Out. Is it like she marries into a clan?
Yeah.
Oh.
It's
interesting.
It's great that
wait, is this the one that
just got married?
Yeah.
Yes.
I want to see that.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
I saw the trailer for it.
That girl, what's her name?
Samara Weaving.
Samara Weaving.
Yeah.
She is definitely one of the latest like leading women in horror right now. She's done a lot. She saw haven't you guys seen that Netflix film The Babysitter?
No.
No.
Oh, that's her. And she's done a few more horror films. She's a very good final girl.
Oh.
Yeah. She's really hot right now.
For horror lang.
For horror lang.
Parang listening to why you guys watch horror films, except for Miguel, we all look for something different, I feel. Because Yvette, you're looking for the story behind it. Like Get Out has like a deeper meaning, and Midsommar has the folklore. I watch stuff just to get scared. Like, I watch it for the thrill of it. I want I want that feeling. Yeah. And what do you guys look for, like Miguel and?
I want to hear Miguel.
So, oh my God. So I think, oh shit, I wasn't ready for that question. Parang it's just not. Sorry, tama si. Like I don't watch a horror movie. I mean, the horror movies I appreciate don't leave me just scared. Like it can be cathartic. It can be cathartic. It can have a deeper emotional thing. Like I've super loved my run of horror in the past year or two. I saw The Witch belatedly, like early this year. I saw Midsommar. Like I think I saw them close together. They're both deeply rooted in folklore, and they're both actually very cathartic. Parang it's about two women who escape a certain situation, and it's super good. I do love horror movies with that weird ending. Like for me, Hereditary and The Witch had those great endings wherein a whole new world is introduced to you. You get a glimpse of a whole world beyond your understanding of reality. That's super cool. So I do like it when it's a bit supernatural and otherworldly. But I think that's my main hope. Yeah.
Well, then that means I'm a combination of the both of you, because I watch it because the of all three of you, including Yvette. I watch it because of I love the allegories, the metaphors that are in it. But I love the pure adrenaline rush, the thrill. I love that. It's such a valid reason for wanting to watch a film is to have a real physical reaction of getting horrified or terrified or scared of something. It's a rush. I guess that's also one of the problems of being a big horror fan is when you watch too many horror movies at one point, it's just
it takes a lot.
It doesn't scare you anymore.
Yep.
So your taste changes, and you're like, okay, then if it's not going to scare me, just give me a fantastic movie. You know what I mean? Yeah. So my taste has really evolved from my early horror days of watching slashers, nothing but slashers, to nothing but ghost movies, to like Asian horror. I think I've also kind of grown with the trend of horror movie making as well, which is right now it's a lot of it is about catharsis. And you know what I mean? Yeah. And it's really a new world for horror right now with the whole
director, with the new directors.
Ari Aster doing Hereditary and Midsommar. And it's different now than it was 10 years ago when Trollhunter came out, which was very visual and
is there a term for the new this generation of horror directors? Is there
I have no idea.
Parang post horror.
Go probably.
Yeah. No, I don't remember. I'm trying to remember, but there were a lot of articles about it. Yeah. They did have a term for it, but I don't remember.
I think Ramon would know, but it's like they've gone beyond scare tactics or scare horror. And
metaphysical horror?
Yeah.
No,
I really enjoy the new horror. Yeah. The new way horror is being done now. And I'm sorry if this sounds mayaman, because if you read my book, right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely. Yeah, absolutely.
It's
your
more
horror is in the details, actually.
Or the horror is revealing something about ourselves that's actually tama, something we refuse to confront, and which is the horror actually inside of parang galing nga ng ganong klase. So in that way, that's one way for me to appreciate horror more than before. Interesting.
Mm-hmm. So Trollhunter was not scary at all, Miguel. But how did you view it as a horror film?
Well, I can't call it parang straight up. I know it's about monsters and it's about beyond our realm of understanding. Also, tama yun na it's revealing this other area of like a darkness. Pero because it's treated the way it is, that it's funny and it's a bit like a mockumentary. Para for me, it became an intriguing study of the possibility of like, oh, trolls in the real world. That's pretty cool. Parang yeah. So it became a cool thing for me to like delve into more than it didn't scare me in. You know what I mean? So,
you had both of you had no idea what you were getting into when you watched it.
Yeah.
How was that? Like,
None.
Okay,
naman, because the moment I saw it was found footage, I was already pulled in. That's really, I love found footage. Anything, even if it's mockumentary, na comedy, I just find it because I'm a fan of reality. So
maybe.
You know what I mean? It brings you into this reality TV kind of world. So when I saw that it was a mockumentary from the beginning,
what are good found footage films? Not necessarily horror. Sorry, just to give me a free.
Sure.
I love Paranormal Activity. 1, 2, and 3. Love them.
They're really scary.
Cloverfield was
the
alien movie.
Cloverfield. That was another. That was the movie I was trying to remember.
Yeah.
Cloverfield, found footage horror, monster movie. That's very comparable to this, even though Cloverfield is straight up monster movie horror.
Wait, and this also Monsters. Remember?
Yes, that indie horror. It was more of a romance.
I saw it in the movie house in Robinson's Galleria. I didn't know what I was walking into.
Did you?
Yeah, I didn't know what I was walking into, but I watched it alone. Alam ko lang na monster movie siya. And parang the director he got bigger. Like he's like doing other stuff now. But
yeah, I think he did a Jurassic Park.
Yeah, ganun na siya. Yeah. So,
let me see.
Me also 2010.
That's a fantastic
super love
movie. It's more of a romance than it is a horror, but
parang relationship movie pala siya. Shoot, it's Gareth Edwards, dude.
Gareth Edwards. Oh my god.
Yeah. Who went on to do Rogue One, Godzilla.
Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
Oh no, it's a great thing. I love Rogue One so much. He's
that's
really
my favorite
good.
Star Wars film.
Yeah,
it's my favorite.
Wow, I haven't
Star
seen so
Wars.
many movies.
It's definitely my favorite new Star Wars. Yeah,
I haven't seen the old ones in a long time, so I don't remember. But yes.
Oh shit! What did he?
Now that you bring up Monsters, Miguel, I really hope one of our guests chooses Monsters so we can watch it again. That'd be a great film to talk about because, again, we want to talk about horror not just as what people know about, but Monsters is more of a romance. That's a fantastic film to talk about.
Yeah.
You're putting it in the horror.
Sana I'm a guest to this old podcast and I'll say Monsters.
Well, we could do that.
Hi, I'm your host and guest.
Yeah.
You should do that.
I don't know. I sound like an idiot. That's fine. But Monsters was pretty cool.
Well, fantastic.
I think my favorite type of horror movies are like revenge.
Oh my god, I have so many films
I
to
like
recommend
that.
you, Aaron.
One of my favorite revenge horror films is High Tension.
Oh, that's so good. That's the French film.
It's a French film.
Look at these guys. Yeah. Look at these two horror fans. Like, oh yeah.
I know I'm scared, but I'm like,
what's it about? High tension. What's it called? Sorry, High Tension.
High Tension. Yeah, it's hot. I can't pronounce it in French. Hot tension.
Yeah.
Chris, is there an intersect between like a horror film and Western? What would that be? Meron, diba?
Oh yeah.
Wait.
Yeah,
there's one called Dead Birds. That's very good. There's another recent one called Bone. Bone Tomahawk. Fantastic Western horror.
All right.
No, they're about like cannibal, Native American cannibals. Yeah.
Fun.
Yes, there's a bunch. Oh, Miguel, I will give you a bunch.
All right. Monsters pa rin, mga Lord.
Well, this was a fantastic discussion. Again, I want to
thank you so much for introducing this movie to me.
Yeah.
I really love it. Thank you so much. I wouldn't have seen it.
I'm glad you like it.
I love it so much. I'll finish it after this.
I was just gonna thank you because you introduced me to this movie, and I'd like to thank you for taking the time to do this with us because this is fairly new for us, and we love that we have an expert to talk to us about this stuff. So thank you so much. Thank you for this great discussion.
Yvette, is there anything you want to promote before you head off? What are you working on right now?
Right now, I don't think there's anything to promote. Right now, I'm supposed to be working on a novel, supposed to be.
Oh!
Nice.
So this is like one story na, hindi na siya anthology.
Hindi na siya. I actually have enough material for a second collection. I just don't know how I'm going to publish it. I'm thinking about self-publishing.
Yeah, dude.
And I'm currently writing a novel.
I'm so excited.
So, yeah.
Wonderful. We can't wait for that.
Yeah, me also.
Thank you, please.
Yeah. Once again, thank you so much to everybody who's listening, and thank you so much to our very special guest, Yvette. Thank you so much for sharing this movie with us, and we hope to have you again maybe later on talking about a different
The
film.
novel.
And we hope everyone listening will tune in to our next episode.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Sakto pero mainit.
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
Do you know what my third choice was going to be?
What?
Oh, what?
Dog Soldiers.
What's that? I can't be an hour like
What? Di alam?
That's
It's a
so
werewolf
good.
film. And it's a siege film. That's werewolf.
I love it. I love it already.
It is
War.
so
Masaya
good.
siya.
In what war? In what war? In what?
It's not.
It's
I
not
don't
a war.
know
It's
what.
not a war.
It's not a
just,
war.
It just involves the military.
Okay, hold on. Dog Soldiers. 2002.
Like, this is. I will describe a really quick scene for you,
Oh,
Miguel,
just
and it will convince you to watch
thumbnails ka
the
nakatakot
movie.
tayo ka na. Thumbnail pa lang.
No, it's not so scary.
Whatever.
Let me. Yeah. So this scene, okay, like a werewolf, like claws one guy in his like abdomen, and the guy looks down and says, "Sausages."
So
that will set you up
yeah.
for this movie.
Actually, once in a
It's
while,
so
I'm in the mood
good.
for gore din talaga. Like, like stupid gore. When usually that time is daytime. I'm down for it.
Cool.
Actually, that's one thing we didn't talk about in Trollhunter: the rabies.
Spoiler.
Yeah.
Spoiler. But the guy who got bitten, all right, sure.
Anyway, this is the end. You aren't recording anymore.
We're still recording. No,
we're recording.
We've ended.
could have cut
We've
earlier.
ended, but
Yeah.
we're recording because some shit comes out after.
Yeah.
It sounds so
I know
bad.
it sounds so bad.
Oh, are we? What happened? Did we end it?
No,
what?
We ended earlier. Wait.
Thank you.
Yeah, pero you ended, pero you continued eh. So walang close.
Okay.
Didn't feel like a
have
gun, man.
Aaron. Okay,
Yeah.
you're right. We'll have Aaron give a wrap up
Yeah.
and a
All right.
goodbye. Yeah.
When Miguel
Unless you stop recording. Did you stop recording already?
No, I
didn't.
No. Did you, Yvette?
No, still
Okay.
recording.
Did it? So when Miguel stopped it.
No, I'm not.
You're still recording, right?
Yeah.
We'll just make a jump cut. Doesn't matter.
Yeah. Ganda pa ng usapan. I'm gonna include that. Of
Yeah.
course.
You're right.
Still recording.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Nice.
So anyway,
Close na, no? Close na, no? And. Just kidding. Done.
Brought to you by Big Baby Studios.